Hey guys, this is the first video in a series of cactus and succulent videos that I have planned for you. So I wanted to start with the foundation and kind of get that out of the way because that's sort of the biggest part of having a thriving succulent or cactus or not. Your soil can literally make or break your cactus. It will either help it thrive or it will kill it. And that's why it's so great to have control over your soil so you can customize it to you and your plants. So what I like to do is mix up a regular cactus potting soil. So I'll buy this one at Lowe's. This is just the Kellogg brand. It's for palm, citrus, cactus, succulents. One of my favorite potting ingredients to use no matter what kind of plant I'm potting up is cocoa coir. And I'll use coir instead of peat moss, so in place of peat moss. Peat moss I try to stay away from because I don't like the way that it pulls, it like shrinks, it pulls away from the sides of your pot and it doesn't re-wet very easily. So you go to water, like especially with cactus and succulents where you want the soil to dry out, you go back to re-water and it will just kind of bead off the top of the peat moss and down the sides of your pot because it's pulled away from the sides of your pot. Here's an example of a peat-based potting soil mix. You can see how it's shrunken away from the sides. It's extremely compacted and very crispy. It's going to be very difficult to try to re-wet this soil again and actually get the water to the plant's roots. On the other hand, coconut coir, even though both soils were completely dried out, the coir has remained very lightweight. It's kept the soil aerated. It doesn't shrink. It hasn't compacted. And it's going to be very easy to re-wet this soil again. And it's excellent at retaining water. So the coir bricks come in something that looks like this. This is a smaller piece, so the bricks that I get they're like in 4 sections and they're really easy to work with. Some manufacturers will have larger bricks and it's going to make a whole bunch of coir. So if you're doing a big project, then that's great. But if you just do like little bits at a time, like you're only potting up a handful of plants at a time, then I kind of like to go for the smaller bricks. That way you don't have to have so much because this gets really big. In fact, one of these bricks makes a huge bag like this. So it really soaks up the water. So this side is like my solid soil ingredients and then porous ingredients on this side. There's lots of different porous ingredients that you can choose from. Pumice is my first choice. I can't find it though in my area, but if you look at feed stores, you can find it under the name Dry Stall, not Stall Dry. There is a store in my area that has Stall Dry. It's a totally different product, but you want to look for Dry Stall. I can't find it though, so I have to use perlite. They do kind of the same thing. They will aerate your soil, they'll make it light and fluffy. And then I also use the black lava rock or cinder, scoria, there's different names for it. There's also red lava rock, but the black one is the one that I go for because it's small. So there's a lot of small bits in it. It's pretty broken down. Alright, so let's go ahead and prepare some coconut coir. So I'll just pull out the brick and I'll break it in half. This brand has it perforated down the center, so it's really easy. The bricks are very thin that they have, so it's just easier to work with. And I'll just take off half that brick and put it back in the bag. The bags are made to be able to pour the water directly into and prepare it right there in the bag. And I'm using warm water. My watering can has been sitting out in the sun all morning, so I noticed that warm water tends to help soak into the coir brick a lot faster than using cold water. But use whatever you have available. And so I'm just kind of soaking that in, and then I go in and I kind of work off any of the pieces of the brick, sort of just separating the pieces, just making sure that there's no, hard, dry pieces of the brick left, just making sure it's all completely soaked through with the water. I'll let the coconut coir mixture sit for about 15 minutes before I start working with it. And right now I'm just adding some of my cactus and succulent potting soil to my mixing container. Just throw a few handfuls of that in and then a few handfuls of the coconut coir. So this part of the mix is really what's going to retain the water and the nutrients for your potting soil. And the coarse gritty products are for adding aeration to your soil and to make it fast draining. And succulents and cactus need a super fast draining soil. They do not like to have wet feet. And now I'm adding a few handfuls of the black cinder. And like I said, there are other products you can use. You could experiment with turfus, which is calcined clay or like little clay pebbles. There's crushed granite that you could use, pumice. Any of those products would be excellent. And you can definitely experiment and find what works best for you and what's available in your area. So I'm just mixing that up. I like my mix to be as gritty and as fast draining as absolutely possible because I'm always afraid of overwatering my succulents. What I'll do is I'll squeeze a handful of it, and if it breaks apart and crumbles, then I know I'm good. And that's the soil I want. If it holds its form, then I need to add more of the grit to it. And I try to keep the grittiness as uniform in size as possible, so if there's any large chunks of cinder, I'll just grab those and throw those out. I don't want any, too large of air pockets created in the mix. I want it to be pretty uniform and help keep the water drainage even as well. And so when it comes to deciding how gritty to make your mix, well, that depends on what type of plant you're potting up. If the succulent leaves are quite fat, then they store a lot of water and they don't need a lot of water stored in their soil. But if the leaves are quite thin and they don't store as much water, then it's okay if the soil retains a little more water and isn't as gritty as if you were potting up a fat cactus. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, and I look forward to doing many more cactus and succulent videos in the future. So if you have a cactus and succulent soil recipe that you would like to share, please do in the comments. I would love to read through and see how you guys like to grow them as well. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.